Hey, Michelle, how are you today?
Good, Lindsay. How are you?
Well, good. I'm excited for this topic today. I have an important question to ask
Okay.
you. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So, Michelle, do you remember where you were when Barack Obama was elected president of the United States?
Good question. I remember, yes, I was at a watch party. I was in London, actually. That's when I was studying abroad in London. And so there was this huge watch party, and people were watching the results come through and celebrating. And it was really fun. And I remember then the next day talking to because I had an internship there, and I still remember talking to the guy who worked at the door, and he was so excited, and it was like a
Yeah.
little party, just a good
Yeah.
feeling all around. Do you remember
Oh.
where you were?
Yeah, I was in New York, and I think it must have been really late for you in London because I feel like
Yes,
in New York it was late. It was like 10
yes,
or 11, maybe
yes,
midnight. I don't know. It must
yes.
have
It was a
been.
late night party.
Wow, really late night. Okay, all right. I think I was back home, so I think I had been at a bar watching with friends, and then I think I came home, and by the time they actually announced that he had won, I remember being in my room in my New York apartment, but the key is we remember exactly where
Yes.
that was a huge, and I remember crying, and I think you cried too, and it's like just feeling very emotional. I imagine you cried. I don't know. Or just sort of
I
got
don't know if I
emotional.
I don't know if I cried, but I was very, very excited. Like,
Very
I don't know.
excited.
I can't remember if I cried or not, but that's one
It
thing I don't
just
remember.
it I guess we all just kind of intuitively knew this is a big step forward, and the whole world knew it.
Yeah.
And so when I think, like, I'll never forget where I was, right? And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether you're just on the subway or where, it doesn't have to be some fancy place. We remember where we were when important events happened. And it's not like
Yes.
it's relevant to the world where we were. That's why I always kind of find this expression a little strange, because it's like it doesn't
Mhm,
really
mhm,
matter
mhm.
where you were, but it does matter for you in your life. So it
Yeah,
comes
because
up
it
a
it
lot.
evokes this feeling of, that event, and you can probably count these events. There aren't that many, I think, that stick with you forever about where you were when, but I think that this is good because it's a first of all, it's a very common conversation topic. This does come up, and it
It
is a great
absolutely does.
connection skill to be able to share this because then other stories can come out of it. I'm telling you about my experience in London. So I was abroad when this happened.
Right. Right.
And that can lead to lots of other things. And it's just, I think people like talking about this because it
They
does,
absolutely do.
there's some place in your heart that it evokes some emotion, whether it's a positive emotion, a negative emotion, whatever it
Yeah.
is. It's just,
Yes.
it feels nice to get it out.
100%. And it's also, as you get to be older, it's kind of a portrait of a life, right? So these are the events of your life, right? If I think
Yeah.
about what
Yeah.
my mom would
Right.
answer to this, it would be when JFK was shot. She remembers
Uh,
where
uh,
she was, right?
Did we already get to that part in the notes? Because I
Oh
wrote
shoot,
about
this is
that.
this is in our notes. Okay, I will let's move on into the
No, no, no,
episode.
no, no, but no,
Let's really
I
get
was
into it.
asking that. No, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm glad it came up naturally because I wasn't even looking at the notes because I was enjoying the conversation so much. But yes,
Yeah,
that's what my parents always talk about. Oh,
JFK.
exactly.
Yeah.
The JFK
Yeah.
assassination, they still talk about where they were and when it came up um uh,
Right.
d-
Right. Right.
so that was 11/22/63. So when it came up,
Mhm.
and it was the 50-year anniversary, remember, it was very meaningful to my parents.
Yeah, or even things a little, like, lower level. I mean, assassinations, deaths, are the big ones, or elections, but things like scandals, like the Watergate scandal with Nixon, I
Mhm.
think our parents would probably say they remember where they were when they heard about it, but it's usually more precise moments when something
Yeah.
happened, right? Scandals
Yes.
can last for years or months in the news, so it's more so about
Mhm.
the moment of something extremely dramatic. But yeah,
Right,
it's a portrait of a
exactly.
life. 9/11. Well, okay, I think we're gonna get to these things. So
Yeah.
let's get into it. Michelle, I want to make sure our listeners know that the way to take the next level with All Ears English, go to the next level, is to listen with the app. Michelle, we just launched some very new features in the app. What are they?
Well, this is really cool. Well, number 1, with the transcripts, you can listen along and you can slow down the episode to granular speeds, okay? You
Exactly.
can have it
Yeah.
very, very, very granular, so you can listen at any speed that makes you feel comfortable. You can
Mhm.
change it up, whatever it is, but this is a really exciting new feature. And then also, we have weekly recaps with a role play, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, we just started doing this, and this is now in the premium feed for our listeners that are members in the app.
Mhm.
We now come in once a week and we recap all of the keywords that you learned in the app that
Mhm.
week. And we do a special role play that encapsulates the entire week. Plus, those
Yes.
are transcribed or captioned. So, really good stuff over in the app, guys. Go over to
Yes.
allearsenglish.com/app, become a premium member, do your 7-day free trial, see what it looks like,
Yeah.
see if you like it. I think the most important feature there is those transcripts, right? It's kind of awesome
Mm.
that you can see every word we say. Human transcripts, tap on words, save them. It's a very
Right.
cool way to listen to the show. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It Alright. So, another thing is to, head on over. We did episode 2271. That was happen to or happen with. How to know the difference. So listen to
And I
that
think,
one.
yeah, and that skill would probably tie in nicely into this skill, right?
Exactly.
Something happened to someone, right?
Right?
Something happened to someone. I remember where
Right.
I was when that happened to
When
that
this
person.
happened to right,
Yes.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly,
Good.
so listen to that one. Okay, so the idea, as we were saying, is where were you when, dot, 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 right? So, again, we said it could be, sad things, tragic things, or happy things, but, of course, Lindsay, you already mentioned 9/11. That's a huge one. Lindsay,
Yeah.
where were you on 9/11?
9/11, I was on my campus, which by the way is very close to Washington DC. So a
Mhm,
lot of parents I mean, you grew up in that area, Michelle, so you
mhm,
know a lot of parents of kids in my college worked in the Pentagon and worked in that area.
yeah,
So there was a dead silence on my campus, just no
mm,
one talking, and it gives me chills to even think about it now. I remember walking into the campus center and then seeing on the monitors, watching the
mhm,
buildings and thinking, "Oh my
mhm,
god, what is happening?" So where were you, Michelle, when you heard about 9/11 or when 9/11 happened?
yeah. I was in French class, and I remember they rolled a TV in, remember in the olden days when
Mm,
they used to have a TV on. I don't even know what they have now, but they
yeah,
rolled in the
yeah.
big TV, and I remember there was an announcement on the loudspeaker, and then they brought in the TV, and I remember my French teacher said, "Oh, this is so sad when things like this happen." It was after the first one was hit. She said, "It's so
Mhm.
sad when, like, accidents like this happen when, they thought it could be an accident," and then
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they
But
didn't man.
yeah, but
Yeah,
also, yes, like you said, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, so similar idea, and I remember you could hear helicopters even outside of my school.
yeah. Yes,
So
yeah, it's very dramatic for people that lived in New York or the New York area, Washington, DC area. It's a very different story. Out here in Colorado, people are not, you know what they're connected to out here? Columbine, the Columbine shooting.
oh, yeah. Oh.
Because I know
Oh.
people that, like, went to that high school or the neighboring high schools,
Oh,
right?
you
This is right
do?
here, yeah.
Oh,
And so
god.
that's their big moment of, growing up. 9/11. Yes, they understand the impact, but when you're not on the East Coast, it's not quite the same from what I understand. The other thing that's kind of interesting about this structure and this conversation for connection is you can understand age gaps really well. Right? Like, if you weren't
Mm.
sure how old someone is or how close in age you are to
Yeah,
someone, just
yeah.
saying, "Hey, where were you when 9/11 happened?" I was in college, you were probably in high school, Michelle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can really start to understand, put their lives in context,
That's
right? It's
true.
kind of
That's
cool, a
true.
way to get to know someone. Yeah.
Or if you don't know how some old somebody is and you're really curious, ask them one of these questions,
Yeah,
and
it's
then you
another
can
way to
start to
do it.
make some guesses.
Yeah, they say you're not supposed to
Uh,
ask age, so this is one way
yeah,
to
exactly.
do it.
"Hey, hey, where were you?" Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but another one, I don't know, do you remember where you were when Michael Jackson died?
That one, no, I don't.
See
That one is not quite as impactful for me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I do remember the O.J. Simpson chase, and I think that's one
Mm.
that people, even though that's not a big moment where someone was assassinated or died, I think we also had the TVs on. I was in middle school, and I think a lot of people my age remember that chase through LA.
Uh,
O.J. Simpson and the white Bronco. You'll never
right,
forget
the
it.
white.
Uh,
Yep. Yeah. I
so
mean, sorry, I'm clearing my voice. Yes. So I remember with Michael Jackson, I remember I had it was right before no, it was right after I graduated college, and I had a
okay,
fellowship in Washington D.C. and I took the train in with my friend, and we were on
yeah.
the way back. And I remember,
Mm.
I guess I got signal on my phone, and it popped up, and my friend was like, "You look like you just saw a ghost." And I told her what happened,
Uh.
and I said, "Why isn't everybody?" I said, "Do you," I still remember. I said, "Do you think I should tell everybody? Do you think anybody knows yet?" And then you could start to see people realize,
Start to look
yeah.
at it. I mean, it's different the way we learn about these things now because of technology. Everyone is so
Right.
dialed into tech that,
Yeah.
you might get an alert, something might pop up on your phone. All of a sudden, everyone's looking at their phone. So it actually is really interesting. It might be a very different moment now, and there will be moments in the future. The way we consume these moments, right? Because
Yeah.
heads down as opposed to heads up looking at a TV screen or actually talking to someone, that's a whole other
Mm,
line of conversation and connection, right? That we could get into
absolutely,
our listeners. This
absolutely.
is a great episode. I'm loving this episode today.
Yeah.
Um,
Good. Well, but you could also use it not to talk about big historical events. You can also use it to talk about more personal things. Maybe
yeah,
where you were when you found out a child in your family was born. Where were you when you got the
right.
call that you got the job that changed your life? When you
Sure.
got your college acceptance letter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
any of these moments in your life, Lindsay, that stand out?
Sure. I mean, like proposing marriage to your
Hmm.
partner. We always these are the big moments of life, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's good on a personal level, but I like the previous context because everyone experienced these moments like 9/11 in one way or the other, and that's
Yeah.
what brings us together, kind of sharing. I would warn though a little bit, like not to go on too long about where you
Yeah.
were and what you were doing when 9/11 happened or other of any events, JFK,
Yeah.
whatever
It's
it was,
very
because
emotional.
it's emotional, but it's also like it's exciting to you. Those details, right?
Right, 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 right. It's
And in the broad
it's
context of who you're connecting with, a little detail is good, not too much. I think. Yeah.
although I will say that as far as personal life goes, it could be I a connection topic if it's something that you know the other person has been through as well. So, for
Yeah.
example, like, if I said, "Do you remember where you were when you got your acceptance to college?" Um, and
Mm.
then I could share my
Hmm.
story, things like that. So you could, but I do
Yeah.
agree with you that these things are not necessarily as
Yeah.
interesting to other people as they are to you. Like, I remember my story, but if I were to tell it to you right now about college, you'd say, "Oh, okay, and here's mine." But at the same time,
Right.
Lindsay, these still are connection skills and they lead to the
Mhm.
next thing.
Yeah. Or maybe when you found out you're pregnant or something like that, if someone else has been pregnant, kind of a cool,
Right.
moment to share that story. I think when you bring it up on the personal level for your personal life events, I think as long as the person's gone through that same
Exactly.
thing, that might be the key there, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, you don't wanna say, "Where do you remember where you were, you proposed or something," and the person is single. You
Of course.
it's like
Or like get you when you found out you're pregnant if they don't have a kid or something
yeah,
like
I
that,
mean,
right? It's
yeah, you
like,
don't wanna you
yeah. These are
doesn't quite
connection
work.
skills. But I think it's
Yeah,
so
that
important to
won't quite
emphasize.
land. That's not
Yeah,
gonna
it
land.
won't land. That's reference to another episode. But this is extremely common. And you'll hear this not just in conversations, where were you when, or do you remember where you were when? You hear it at the top of TED Talks, for example, right? Speeches,
Mm,
professors in classes. So it's not just a one to one thing, it could be a speech you might consume, even in a
yep.
movie, right? So it goes beyond just the one-to-one conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk about how you can use these things in a conversation. So, what are some phrases you can use? So, we're going to go over asking and we're going to go over sharing. Um,
Okay.
so, for asking, you would say, we've already been talking about this. Where were you when? So,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
were you when you heard that Trump won the election? Could be something you ask.
Right. And yeah, that's another moment that people remember for
Hmm.
better, depending on your political orientation, for better or for worse. I mean, I
Hmm.
definitely remember where I was because we were all very dumbfounded. I mean, we were
Yeah.
like, what? I mean, they did the polls, from what I understand, there was like one poll that predicted the LA Times was really predicting this trend, this event. Everyone else was sure that Hillary Clinton was going to take it. I mean, people were absolutely shocked. And yeah, I remember sitting in my living room and feeling, "What just happened?"
Yep.
Wow.
I
Um,
was at the beer garden next to my apartment, and yep.
yeah.
I was sitting connecting with people. I was with Dan, but I was it was everybody was in shock, and we were just kind of talking, and it was that was a wild time. So that one I'll never forget.
Yeah, we could
Um,
do another episode another day about how to describe being shocked. Guys, hit the follow button to get that one. Or here's
yeah.
another way to say it, Michelle. Do you remember what you were doing when, Whitney Houston died, when they announced that Whitney Houston died? Oh, so sad. Oh,
Mhm.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you? Do you
Oh,
remember?
oh, are you I'm sorry, I was waiting for the,
No,
clap.
I
Oh,
just
do I
thought you might.
oh, you were actually Um,
I don't know.
I remember I was in Maryland. I think I was on the couch. I remember that, and they were gonna have the Grammys right after that. So I do
Yes.
remember. What
Yeah.
about you?
I don't actually remember, but, that's very impactful, of course, but for some reason at this moment, I don't remember where I was. Yeah. Sometimes certain moments you remember and you're not sure why, and others you don't, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
interesting. Okay, Michelle, we are getting deep into the episode here. I think we should skip ahead to the role
That's
play.
what I think too. I
Yeah.
was gonna say the same thing. Okay,
Yeah.
well, this shows you this is a really rich episode with a lot
Really
going on and
rich.
a lot we can use to talk about.
It's a real
Um,
connection opportunity for our listeners here. It
Absolutely,
really
and
is. Yeah.
maybe we'll come back to this topic one day and do the other
Mhm.
side of sharing it, but we can give you some examples
Yeah.
here too. So, in this role play, we are talking about high school. We are friends reminiscing about high school.
All right, here we go. So we're taking it to the personal level, the community level now. So here we go. Do you remember what you were doing when the principal announced Miss G was having a baby?
Oh man, yes. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in class and the announcement came over the loudspeaker. Everyone started cheering and the teacher gave us candy.
Same. Also, I can still remember the day when I found out Trisha was moving.
Same. It was so sad. I cried.
Oh, me too. All right. So first, we started off with, "Do you remember what you were doing when?" Kind of wordy, but that is one of the constructions that you can use, guys, to open this up.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then just for fun, I said I remember it like it was yesterday, which is a good expression to use to talk about something that feels so close to you even though it's so far away.
That is a good one. Yeah, remember it like it was yesterday. And then I said same. Also, I can still remember the day when I found out Trisha was moving. And this is now
Mhm.
connecting it to today. That memory is burned in your
Mhm.
brain. It's very strong, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I want to point out that this is, yes, this is the more community based one, but in a way, because here we obviously went to the same high school, we had the same community, so
Yeah.
we can all relate in this way. So it's similar to a big historical event, just in a smaller pond.
Yeah, for sure. So you can kind of choose the topic depending on who you're around. I mean, when I get together with my best friend from high school, we go back to these. I'll ask her these questions. You remember when this happened?
Yeah.
Right. But when I want to go to a party that I know is a very international party, right, where people are from all
Mhm.
over the world, I would ask a more global question. Where
Right.
we
Yeah.
9/11 is kind of a global question, right? The things that bring
Yes.
us together as global citizens. So you choose, obviously you choose the context that makes sense, right? Yes.
Choose your own adventure. Yep.
Good stuff. Michelle, well, thanks for bringing this topic. It's been really good today, and I hope our listeners take this out into the world and connect.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. Bye, guys.
All right, take care. Bye.